And India, Japan and Australia, they have unveiled a new initiative to support global supply chains that have proven vulnerable in this pandemic. Trade ministers from 3 Quad nations held virtual talks on Tuesday. They launched the SCRI, or Supply Chain Resilience Initiative, with 3 objectives. The first one is to share the best practices on supply chain resilience. Second one is to hold investment promotion events. And 3, helping stakeholders explore possibility of diversifying supply chains. The ministers have agreed to meet at least once a year and review the progress. They also committed to roping in academia and businesses for the new initiative. The idea is to create a strong and sustainable supply chain that can survive disruptions. The COVID-19 pandemic has exposed the vulnerabilities in our current system. In that context, this new initiative from 3 Quad nations is extremely important. India's recent struggle to source vaccine raw materials is an example of the issue. The US had initially halted supply of vaccine ingredients to India. Now it does not feature in this new trilateral initiative that all involves the 3 Quad members. Remember, Indian PM Narendra Modi raised the issue of supply chains with Joe Biden, US President. He underscored the importance of a smooth and seamless supply chain for vaccines and medicines. A Quad-led robust supply chain could help avoid such bottlenecks in the future. It will also offer a safer alternative to a China-led supply network. And our principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibal joins us live for more on this. Good morning to Siddhant. First of all, I would like to ask you, how will it come as a relief for India in such at a time when India is facing such pandemic? Siddhant, if you can tell me how this whole decision will come as relief for India at a time when India is going through tough times.
Well, Sumit, very good morning. This is a major initiative taken by all these 3 countries, India, Australia and Japan, launching this initiative. And remember, this coming in the backdrop of, we know that increased dependency on China when it comes to supply chains. And we know amidst the COVID pandemic, which started last year, we know there was excessive dependency on China. And there was an understanding, especially among democratic countries in the region, in Indo-Pacific, that there needs to be alternate supply chains. And if you look at the conversations India has been having happening, whether it's bilaterally or whether it's multilaterally, India has been focusing on alternate supply chains, and this is a product of that conversation. In fact, the conversation started last year in September when the trade ministers of all these 3 countries, India, Australia and Japan, met together under the trilateral mechanism, and now again they have met and finally announced this major initiative which will help countries in the region to procure things like India right now needs a lot of equipments, tanks, cylinders, oxygen, liquid oxygen, and India is scouting the region. We know that India has already got tankers from UAE, from Singapore and from UAE, and its missions are already having conversations with various countries to make sure that they can procure more. But nonetheless, this initiative is expected to be built upon because we know that the ministers are going to meet every year, once a year, to talk just about this initiative, how to expand this initiative. And we know that India has been inviting more countries as well. In fact, I can tell you that India had conversations with many Nordic countries, many European countries, the virtual summits in which India specifically talked about expanding the supply chains initiative, the alternate supply chain initiative, and many countries were eager on it.
Siddhant, also, how do we see vis-a-vis our overall problems with China? Because in the last 1 year, many things have changed vis-a-vis China. That definitely Quad was actually considered as something which we'll be able to use as something that if China is not in our favor, definitely we will be against China using Quad. So how this Quad and this new initiative will help India when it comes to hostilities with China?
Well, if you compare India with China, we know that the big focus, of course, is how to create alternate supply chains, because right now supply chains are excessively dependent on China, and China, of course, impacted by COVID, impacted the supply chains. And also remember, China can, in fact, use them for its own geopolitical purposes. So that fear remains in the capitals in the Indo-Pacific, whether it's Canberra, whether it's Tokyo, or whether it's New Delhi. And that is why, if you look at this entire initiative, India has has been taking a major role in the entire initiative. This will be beneficial to countries like India and countries, in fact, in the ASEAN as well. And remember, it's not the first time this kind of supply chain initiative has been talked about, proposed in the region. There is already a supply chain mechanism on these lines which is existing between ASEAN and Japan. So the focus is to build upon these bilateral, trilateral supply chain initiative towards a larger alternate supply chain initiative in which there is no excessive dependency on one country, because that one country can be impacted by any kind of crisis, and that impacts other countries as well, because we are living in a globalized world, and it impacts everyone. And COVID has in fact shown everyone that it's time that there should be a democratization in the process when it comes to supply chains or any other initiative as well.
Thank you, Siddhant, for joining us and getting us all these details this morning on that important story as far as India and other allies are concerned. WION now available in your country. Download the app and get all the news on the move.